Good morning again. Now I feel like we should be talking about peace today. Well, maybe in our own way we will be, as our theme is what to remember to be happy. But I thought before we talk about what to remember, we would talk about forgetting. Two older gentlemen who were very good friends were sitting together on a park bench. "I'm embarrassed," said one to the other, "but I've forgotten your name." "What is it?" And the other replied after a few moments, "How soon do you need to know?" A man was scheduled to speak for an important business dinner. And as the elegant meal was set down in front of him, he was struck with a horrible realization that he had forgotten his false teeth. In a paralyzing panic, he muttered to the man next to him, "I can't believe I forgot my teeth." "No problem," the man whispered back at him. "I've got an extra pair you can use." So the man pulled out a few sets of false teeth out of his pocket and presented them to the frantic speaker. The first pair was too tight. The second pair was too loose. The third pair, fit him like a dream. So the speaker, now totally relieved, greatly enjoyed his meal and delivered an excellent speech. At the end of the evening, the speaker heartily thanked the man who had saved him from embarrassment. He said, "You really did me a great favor tonight. I'm actually looking for a dentist. I would love to come and see you. Where are you located?" And the guy said, "Oh, I'm not a dentist, I'm an undertaker." Ain't that awful? So this is our third Sunday in the theme of what to remember to be happy. And I started thinking, that's a lot of pressure, isn't it? Especially if the first Sunday I came up and I had a few points, and then the second Sunday had 7 points. So I was going to ask you, did you remember all of them? No, of course not. That's not the point. To beat yourself up over not remembering how to be happy kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? The other week I got together with a friend of mine. Some of you may recognize this is Connie. She used to have a Unity Center in Kingman, and we became jolly good friends. And when I got to see her, I said, "Oh, look at your cool t-shirt." It actually says, oh, you can hardly see it. It's "Life is good." And then out of that are all these different words: love, simplicity, fun, authenticity, Regina's favorite word, creativity, openness, courage, humor, compassion, and gratitude. And now you must remember all of that in order to have a good life. Actually, no, this past week, Barry and I had the opportunity to be part of what in Unity the Unity Ministers calls it our mid-year meetings. They're also known as the annual summit, which sounds really amazing, doesn't it? And Barry and I had never attended this. We call it the mid-year meetings because we actually hold our annual convention in June. So they've always had these meetings. We've never attended. But this year they said, well, you can attend online. And it's free. So we're like, sign us up. We'll be there. And we had this great opportunity to hear from Reverend Shad Groverland, who is our new CEO of Unity Worldwide Ministries, and he's a young guy. He's like maybe 40. And he's just got all of this great, inspiration and energy. And I couldn't remember, I wouldn't be able to tell you anything that happened in those 2 days that we listened. However, I usually find that I can take at least one or two things away. And they seem to go right in here. I do this practice with y'all sometimes where I say, point to yourself. And we always point here when we point to ourselves, and yet it's here that we're identifying with so much of that chaos and that busyness and that negativity. And why is that? Because that the subconscious, that of us which is tuned into the divine wisdom, knows that's not who we are. We're here. So there is always at least one thing that we can find that resonates, that just goes right in there. I like to say that's a truth zinger, when something that you hear resonates with you and you carry it with you. You don't need to remember the 20 other things that were said, but there was a message that was for you. And so I'm hoping that over the last 2 Sundays and today that you will find at least one thing that you can take with you. I'd like to do just a run through so that you can take notes and then memorize all of this. No, that first Sunday, so the inspiration for these talks came from Adida Samraj. And he was an American spiritual teacher, guru, and he did a talk at one point that he called What to Remember to Be Happy. And it just so happened that back in the 80s, I was exposed to that particular talk, and it was one of those messages that went right into my heart and stayed with me forever. And so this is actually, they created a children's book out of that particular talk, What to Remember to Be Happy, which is a perfect book for, children of all ages, as we say. So his 3 messages in that talk were, 1, remember the mystery. So remember to feel the mystery and even to breathe the mystery. And the second one was, remember to feel that you are more than what you look like. And then number 3, remember that you are the mystery. And I thought, well, some people may not really even resonate with that word mystery. And that's where this spoke to me the other day when I saw this little Peanuts cartoon, Snoopy watching the leaves fall. And do you have a Lucy in your life? It's funny because when I was thinking about Lucy, and I thought, I remember when I was young, there was a Lucy in my life. Anyone who had sat and watched leaves fall off a tree must be pretty stupid. I don't know about you, but my parents said, don't use that word. Don't ever call anybody stupid or dumb. Don't use that word. But, Snoopy just zones right. He's in the zone. We talked about last week. He's in the flow with the leaves, the mystery of the beauty of this thing that we call fall, when Everything dies, and yet it's amazingly alive. And then last week I talked about 7 habits of happy people, which came from the University of Pennsylvania. They actually have a department for authentic happiness. I know, cool, huh? And last week I was sharing with folks the website where you can go in and they have little tests you can take. And one of them is to discover your strengths. Because the first or the top thing that people who are happy, one of the habits that they have is focusing on their strengths. What is it that we're good at? And think about it for a moment. Is that where you focus? Or are you thinking about what you didn't do today, what you didn't get done, or what you didn't do well enough? So anyway, I'll just zip through them. 7 habits of happy people. Focus on your strengths. And then these next 3, we talked about last week. We hear people saying, well, you need to be grateful, and you need to be kind and generous, and you need to be forgiving. And we have always sort of focused on that we are doing that for someone else. When in reality, what we're learning here is that these things, doing these things, makes us happy. So spiritual engagement, reframing things toward optimism, recognizing what our purpose is. And last week I said we all have the same purpose, to awaken to our divine potential. But we all do that a little differently, and that is what they call flow. Finding where you lose track of time, where you're completely zoned out, not hearing Lucy or anybody else. And finally, the 7th one was connecting with others. And interestingly, I look over there at my fellow social worker. Boy, that was a big thing that we learned in social work school, was that the healthiest, happiest people are the ones who have the strongest support network, have the strongest friendships, and how important relationships are. At least one person that you can share your feelings with. So there is a story of a man who was a warrior. I'm sorry, a worrier. Big difference there. He was a warrior. Any warriors out there? I know we got warriors, but do we have any warriors? He seemed to carry the weight of the world on him and on his shoulders. And so this is actually the opposite of what we're talking about. This is what not to remember to be happy, right? All of those things that we worry about. So one day, this man changed. He had a bounce in his step. It was as if he had not a care in the world. A friend asked him, what happened? He said, well, as you know, I have always been one to worry, and I've decided that this is both unwise and unhealthy, so I have hired someone to worry for me. So his friend says, well, how much does that cost? I want in on this, right? The guy says, about $1,000 a week. But how can you afford to pay this man who worries for you? And the guy said, that's his worry. But really, aren't we saying, let it go? Abraham Hicks, some of you are familiar with those teachings, and at one of the practices that they suggest in Abraham's many tools for using to be happy is giving it over to what they call the universal manager. Just give it over to the universal manager. Oh, hi, Ed. I didn't see you come in. Hey. Yeah, so who is the universal manager? That doesn't have to be something or someone. That's the mystery, right? The mystery of God, of divine presence, of the power of the universe to make all things unfold in perfect order for the highest good, for your highest good and for all. How many of you remember the book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff? Something that you may not know, this book was written by a psychologist, Richard Carlson, who ironically died of a heart attack at age 45. But what a powerful gift lives on from his inspiration. And that inspiration came to him one day. He had picked up his 6-year-old daughter from school, and they had ended up in a lot of traffic, so much so that they were just creeping and crawling along. Has that ever happened to you, where it should take you a few minutes to get home and it takes you 40 minutes? And his story is that his daughter was looking out the window, and she was looking at all the rest of the people that they were stuck in traffic with. And she asked him, Dad, why is everybody so mad? And he started to look around himself, and he thought, well, maybe they're not mad, but they are definitely maybe frustrated and anxious and bored and unhappy, maybe. And it was from that this book, to not sweat the small stuff. And the second half of the title is, it's all small stuff. Somebody once said, we take on this incarnation, we take on this body. That's big stuff. And then at some point we drop the body. We go back into spirit. That's big stuff. And everything else in between is little stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. One of the things that has helped me, I like to think of myself as a fairly happy person, is A Course in Miracles. And there is a period of time, as part of A Course in Miracles, there are 365 lessons. So there's a lesson for every day. And there's a period of time when the lessons are all about happiness. And so I'm going to share there's an affirmation for each lesson. And here's some of those lessons. God's will for me is perfect happiness. How about taking that one in, using that one? God's will for me is perfect happiness. Can you receive that? Do you believe that? I share God's will for happiness for me. God, being love, is also happiness. These are all different days, different lessons. And again, there's a whole page of writing about each one of these lessons, but I love these short affirmations. I seek but what belongs to me in truth. Joy and peace are my inheritance. Have you ever thought about it that way, that you actually have a divine inheritance? It's joy and it's peace. Claim it. Let's claim it today. Yes, it's mine. God's peace and joy are mine. So there's this thing about, maybe you just call it semantics, but some folks say that happiness is what you are when something is happening, like something good is happening in your life. And joy is that which is part of you, that it doesn't matter what's going on outside of you, that you can find it within you because it's the joy of God or the joy of the divine presence, whatever it is that you call that. And I'm not going to get caught up in those semantics for our purposes for these few weeks that we're doing What to Remember to Be Happy. It's not important. I would like to share another word with you, though, and it's not a word that you haven't heard before, but I love this Hebrew word, shalom, because it actually means all of those words. It means peace, harmony, wholeness, completeness, prosperity, well-being, and tranquility. It just so happens that it also means hello and goodbye. Kind of like aloha, I guess. But some folks with wisdom have pointed out that another word that you could use to describe shalom is enough. Fran, we had a little discussion at one point about enough. Do you have enough? Or can you just know that you have enough? In fact, probably if you think about it, you have way more than enough. Shalom. Shalom. In a few minutes, I'm going to share with you a song by Kirk Franklin. Have you heard of him? He actually is, I think he would be considered traditional Christian music or even gospel maybe. But I love, no buts about it, I love this song. It's called I Smile, and I'll share that with you in a moment. But I wanted to just share with you this because what we were just talking about, the difference between joy and smile, because he references it in the lyrics. He says, I just don't want you to be happy because you got to have something happening. I want you to have joy because nobody can take that away from you. And that is powerful, and that is a truth, and let that one resonate. When I was a kid, I used to get really excited about things. I think that's a fairly normal kid thing, isn't it? To get really excited about things, and then when something bad happens, you get like really low about it. And I remember my dad, in his wisdom, at one point saying to me, you might want to try to even those out a little bit. And I have. Haven't I? Yeah. Barry. Yes. Haven't I, Barry? Yes, dear. Or else. We actually have, I just took a picture of this little wall hanging that we have on our wall at home. It's right by the door as we leave the house. And because we do believe that it's a choice. And when things aren't going well, that's Susan and I used to talk about, well, you know, if things aren't going well, I still want to be happy. So I can choose it. I will work on my thinking. I will do what I need to do so that I can still be happy. In fact, the other day I was cleaning out the cat litter box and I thought, oh, I'm happy. Yeah, Susan's like, good for you. I was going to give you, each one of you, a big sign to put on your chest today, on your shirt, with an I. An I for invincible. Because that's the truth of who we are. We are invincible. Doesn't matter what we do or what happens to these bodies, because we still go on, right? And there is that power that is within us that is amazing when we tune in, tap in, and turn on to it. Those are the thoughts that we want to latch on to remember to be happy. And I'm going to close today actually with a little video. We haven't done a video in a while. Barry and I love to, when we finally get home on Sunday evening, we watch Sunday Morning, because on CBS, we obviously missed that on Sunday morning, but we love that show. And there was a cute little piece that I wanted to share with you today.
Clairvoyant Winslow Elliott knows what we're feeling.
Anytime there's uncertainty or anxiety, people want to know their future.
So I asked Winslow.
Oh, where'd it go? Oh. That's where it went.
To shuffle up her tarot cards.
You have the question?
Yes, but I don't want a reading for me.
Okay.
I want a reading for her.
Ooh, the future of the United States of America.
What lies ahead for the new year?
Okay.
It's the uneasy question
Interesting.
on everyone's mind. To some, 2022 has already dropped the ball. We've already stewed in the resurrection of our insurrection. We've seen people stuck in traffic for hours and in airports for days. We've seen a spike in COVID cases, triggering a nationwide epidemic of deja vu. So how will we manage?
Going into the future,
Winslow had answers.
a higher octave of where we are now.
Unfortunately, they went way over my crown chakra.
It's going inward time.
Does anything here say we're going to be okay?
That's not good.
There was one card to come, and I'll show you that in a minute. But first, I'll look at the wild card in this query. That resilient group of Americans who dictate their own future, always taking whatever lousy hand they're dealt, and somehow finding aces.
Whether it's the woman who turned her airport delay into a ukulele recital,
Airport's a good place to practice.
or the strangers who broke bread from a bakery truck on I-95.
Just trying to help out.
We saw smiles pop up in the most unlikely places this week.
Did the outpouring surprise you?
Yes.
Heidi and Steve Boatwright lost everything in the Colorado fire,
Here we have the Boatwrights.
but have since been flooded with goodwill and great comfort.
People sending care packages, donating, things we don't know. We're trying to Google some of these names. Like, who is this? I don't know who this is.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
I hear stories of kindness like that and wonder, is our future fated, or is it divine from the way we treat one another? That's what I believe. And Winslow, what's the last one? Or someone out there
Oh,
agrees.
it's a card of choosing love.
And so it is. So let's take that a little bit deeper as we have just a brief period of meditation. taking a deep breath and relaxing once again into spirit. Letting go. Holding on to one thought that is hopeful, positive, strong, loving, kind, thankful. Maybe every day choosing a mantra for the day. Something as simple as I'm happy, or I want to be happy, gets us on that path. And we could say, well, maybe that's just a selfish thing, that I want to be happy and I'm going to do all these things to be happy, but there's more to it than that. When we choose happiness, we are offering that vibration out into the universe. We are helping to shift and to raise the consciousness of the world. That's no small thing. And so maybe just placing your hand over your heart or over your solar plexus, just resting in that knowing that it's all there within you, all of it. And it's okay to let the roller coaster of life go with its ups and its downs, and to remain equanimous. To let it all go. And so our gift as we go forth in this day is a greater awareness of all of these things, not for the purpose of memorizing them or beating ourselves up for not doing them, but to simply, when we remember, to be happy. And so it is. So it is. Thank you, and thank you. And amen.